All right, guys, welcome back to Within Tolerance. This is episode 63. I don't know why, but I feel like I haven't done one of these in forever. I swear time is going by so fast day to day, but then when it comes to this podcast, it's like I haven't done this in a month. But we're back, Dylan and I, and we're just going to talk a little bit about everything. One thing I did want to throw out there, and I'm sure Dylan has an update on this because he got the t-shirt samples in. I'm working on my inventory for my website, BrickTactical, and I have 2 XXL Within Tolerance shirts still available. Once those are gone, that specific color, I don't know if we'll ever make it again, but there's 2 of them left. So if you guys want one, there's 2 available, ready to ship, and then I can delete that product and we can move on to the new shirts, which would be really nice. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, it'll be great.
So yeah, Dylan, what's new with you?
Lots of things.
Here we go. Let's do it.
Well, no, things are good. I got the grills done. It was kind of a frustrating week with that customer, but got through everything and shipped them out. So that's nice to have that off the machine. And now I'm on my titanium job, which was filled with some successes and some not so successes.
Hopefully learning.
Yeah, I didn't break any tools so far, which is nice. Thread mill 256 in titanium, no problem with a Harvey tool. The thread mills for hardened steels is what the ones that they recommended for titanium. So that went, zero drama, just worked. Roughing it on the outside totally worked fine. Again, another helical tool. Like, it's actually one of the ones that I've used on like a 304 job and a 303 job, and just keeps trucking. But it only came to when I started trying to helix into it in the center, and I used, their map wizard and used the helix angle and helix diameter and all that stuff, and it just gummed up and was like, nope. And thankfully I heard it. Like, it sounded very inconsistent. Like, it sounded like it was cutting for a second and then nothing, and then cutting for a second and nothing. And I think that was just like it smearing and filling the flutes and then breaking off. And I heard that once or twice, and I was like, I'm gonna stop it. And I stopped it and looked, and like there was just titanium all up in the flutes of the end mill.
Oh, geez.
So
What size tool?
3/8,
Okay.
7 flute, and I knew immediately. I was like, oh, okay, not gonna be doing that. And so I stopped it and was thankfully able to just pull the titanium out of the flutes, and tool looks still fine. Not even a chip on the tooth, which is fantastic.
Did it have radiuses on the tips?
Yeah, I think it's a 20 thou radius tool.
Okay.
And so I'm waiting. Tomorrow I should have a like 470 something. It's some metric size drill, carbide drill coming in. Then I'm just going to drill through the part first and then go in and spiral out from there. So
there you go. Yeah.
Not an issue at all, it was an issue, but thankfully nothing big happened. The last few weeks has just been trying weeks. Like, I've had car stuff go wrong, and I'll talk more about that in my research this week segment. But I broke my Illumigator rougher trying to do an easy job on Sunday because I was waiting on that drill. I was like, I'll break down the titanium job, I'll set up for this aluminum job that's real easy. Made it through op 1, no problem. Op 2, I just don't think I tightened it hard enough, and coming through roughing a part of it, kicked the part up at an angle and broke off one of the corners. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. It's just one of those like really good lessons of try not to rush through things. Especially when like I didn't need to, like I had time left on it, but I was like, I'm here for a couple hours more, like an hour more. I'll just knock this part out real quick. And of course the part, I didn't make any extras either. So I scrapped the part and have to go make a whole new one. And it was just frustrating. The last couple of weeks have just been exceptionally frustrating and lots of lessons learned, but it's going well otherwise. Like, I'm excited to get this titanium job rolling and get it done, learning lots of new things. So yeah, overall it's been good. And trying to think, I posted on our stories, I got my tool setter riser all done. It's off at anodize right now. And then I'll cut I left 10 thou stock on the actual mounting surface of it. And so when it gets back, we'll put the plate on. I'll put that on. and just kind of hang my tool setter for like one brief tool path where I'll go in there and clean up that mounting face so that it's perfectly perpendicular to the machine. I mount that thing up and be off to the races.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it seems like you're, I mean, I don't know how long your anodizing company takes, but it seems like you're on target for the deadline challenge.
Yeah. I was hoping to get it done this last weekend, but the riser took the parts before the riser took a little longer than I wanted, and then I had some stuff I had to pop in and out of the machine between riser ops and all that stuff. But yeah, it's done, and I'm on my way. We actually got the rest of my lights hung though in the shop, which is nice. So now I've got
Okay.
a ton of light. Like you'll be able to see because the 5 lights or 6 lights we hung are all on a remote, and so you'll be able to see before and after. And like it's one
Oh,
of those
yeah.
things where both Brad and I are like, how did we function with
Yeah.
little light? Like how this is insane. Um, yeah, it's just those plug-in LED light, not light bars, but light. I guess they're just like light fixtures from
Yep.
Costco, and they were on sale for $20 each, and so we just bought a whole bunch of them and started hanging them.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've talked about that before, but it's how do you live without some of these things until you do it?
Oh man, well, and it's crazy to me that like when we first started the shop had fluorescent tubes, and then like one of the
Oh
first things we
boy.
did in like I think the first 8 months we were there or 6 months we were there is we changed them all out for LED ones, and we're like, oh man, this is such a big upgrade. And now we put in all these extra lights, and we're like, man, how did we live with just the LED bulbs?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like you never can underestimate the power of like having more light in a shop. So anyway, I'm just super happy about that. It was kind of we didn't have a ladder that was 100% the height that we needed for some of this
Uh-huh.
stuff, but we got it done, and
Oh boy.
nobody got hurt, so that was good.
OSHA's don't listen.
Yeah, OSHA wasn't there. As far as
Yeah.
they know, everything was. We had safety harnesses on, and
Yeah.
every hard hats and everything was by the book.
I don't even want to know.
And then I guess the last update, I thought I was going to come into this episode with a just kind of shitty update on the kitty windows, but I thankfully turned that around today. So like the first place that I sent out for quote, they offered laser for plexiglass and polycarbonate, and I'm getting polycarbonate because plexiglass can shatter under loads and stuff like that. Um, and I found a place that offered laser cutting, and I was like, oh great, and I sent them a DXF, and it took them forever to get back to me, and they wanted like $1,100 before shipping for the two windows.
Whoa.
I was like, hard pass. Like I was like, fine, we'll just cut them ourselves, like not a big deal. And then, man, I don't know how I found it today. I don't remember what I was looking up or what, but E-Plastics, which we've ordered plastic from before, popped up in like a related search or like one of the ads on a Google search. I was like, oh, I didn't try them, and so I reached out to them, and it's like just over $300, and like
Wow.
I
Yeah.
can barely buy the sheets for that, and
Oh, I
so
didn't know it was that expensive.
yeah, just the one window. I need like a 4 foot by 4 foot sheet, and it's like $160 or something like that.
Wow.
And so I was like, for not much more. I'm still waiting on a shipping quote from them, and I want to make sure that it's not like $1 billion to ship or like double the price to ship. But as long as it's reasonable, we're just gonna go with that and have them fabricate them and send them over, and then list the machine and get her gone.
Yeah, that's good. Get that finally done.
Yeah. Well, and we're both like now that we've added light, we can like see the areas in our shop that we want to clean better and want to organize better. And so I'm really, really, really wanting to get that thing out of here. And when we first got the TC, one of Brad's coworkers offered to come help clean it for lunch, and like came by and cleaned a bunch of stuff for a few hours, and then we just took him to lunch. And so I told Brad to offer him the same deal. I was like, hey, you should have him come clean the kitty for
Oh
us.
my god.
We'll buy him lunch and dinner. Like I don't care.
Yeah,
Um,
seriously.
so hopefully we can get that done, and that'll be get that thing spit spot, and then put it on Craigslist and see what we can get for it. But yeah, I really want to get it gone. And then I bought another one of those Seville Classics tables. Like I bought that one and posted it on Instagram
Yep,
for my
yep.
shipping table, and so I bought one without the back and the light. Because right now, like every time either of us works on either of our engines, like parts just end up everywhere in the shop because we only have like all of the table space that we have is usually dedicated to machining. Like it's on top of our tool bench and the one next to it, which we usually put parts on and stuff. And so like Brad right now is building his BMW engine and like has the head of his engine on one of our tables taking up most of the space, and like other like cams on another table. And so I was like, you know what? We both work on cars enough. I'm just going to buy a table dedicated to car stuff. We'll put it off to the side, like that can be the car space, and that way,
There you
separate
go.
it out and like, because I definitely can't, and I don't really get annoyed about it because I do the same thing when I'm working on my cars. It's like, oh, I've got horizontal space. I'll put stuff here. I'll put stuff here. I put, and like now it's all laid out and I can see it. And then you got to make a part, and you're like, I have no place to put these 5 parts. Like this is crazy. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
I was just at Home Depot today and I was looking at some more. I think was it? It was probably Husky that had some nice rolling carts with those wood countertop things, and they're just so cheap. It's like, oh, I just want to buy a bunch of these things.
Yeah. We have one of the Husky ones with the cabinets under it. And it's awesome and like holds a ton of weight in the upper cabinet. Even like we have all of our soft jaw, all the soft jaws that we've already cut, but that can be reused. We put them in the big drawer on the top. And yeah, when we get the kitty out of there, I might buy another one or two, so that way, you'll see the shop when you come next week. But like,
Yeah,
I really want to have the machines facing each other, and then like an aisle of um, desk space or bench space down the middle between the two of them, and
yeah.
that way I can run them like a cell. But I also have room on both sides to have fixtures or whatever. So yeah, I've got a pretty clear vision on how I want it to look. I just need to get that kitty out of there and then buy some more desk stuff.
Yeah, I'm still toying with the idea in my head of moving my UV printer downstairs. And Husky makes like they make like I think it's like 4 foot or 5 foot long ones, and then they have like an 8 foot one, like a really long one. And it'd be nice to almost just buy like one of those really big ones and just put my machine on there, the printer, and then put all the stuff in the cabinets below it. Um, and it would just be just easy.
Yeah, totally. And I think I saw you picked up some more stock for pallets for that too, right?
Yeah, so just today I forgot about do you have a Tap Plastics where you're at?
I I know I've looked at their website before, but I can't remember if there's one locally.
Okay. I used to love going to this store when I was younger. When I was like getting into like just making stuff with my grandpa, like we'd always go to Tap Plastics. They always had just like they'd always let me go through like the scrap bin and just like we just buy stuff. We wouldn't know what we're doing with it, but it's just like, free material is always great. And then same thing with like Online Metals. They have one of their warehouses just in Seattle, and they used to do this. Is you used to walk into like where it's just a warehouse where they would cut stuff, and they had this whole section of like drops. And I remember we went there, and same thing, we were like, can we buy some of this? And the guy's like, oh, that's free. And we're like, it's free. And so we probably came home with like 300 pounds of like stainless rods, just everything you could think. We're like, we don't know what we're going to use this for, but we're going to take it. um, and so, I called up Tap Plastics and I'm like, hey, can you quote a 6 inch by 6 inch by half-inch, black Delrin? And they're like, yeah, that'll be like $13 a piece. And I checked Xometry, and that's how much they wanted for it. And I was like, well, I can just get this today. And so I got 10 of them. And so I am currently looking at laying out my next fixture. I got to print, or not print, but mill, for printing. And then, yeah, I just ran out of them because I think I started with 5 fixtures and I've already used up all the material. So now I
Nice. And you
can,
decided to go to aluminum this time, I saw too.
for the,
For the pallets? At least I thought your story was aluminum.
no, they're black Delrin.
Oh, I must have just completely miss
Did I say
saw it.
aluminum on it? I
No,
don't
no, it
know.
just looked like aluminum. The picture you posted.
Yeah, it's just black Delrin.
Oh, sweet.
Um, and I just got to make sure I do like I did the first time, like you mentioned. I'm only gonna mill the cavity. Well, I'm gonna mill the whatever fixture I design. I'm gonna mill it on both sides to take out the warp. Um, and it should be pretty straightforward. And I don't even need to profile these. There's no reason to it. As long as the two dowel pins go in, like it doesn't matter what the shape of this thing is. As long as those pins work, then we're good.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the post right now. It's clearly Delrin. I think I was just looking at it like briefly on my break, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." Okay, whatever. But it's
Yeah,
very
so
clearly Black Delrin.
yeah. I had to pull it up just now too. I was like, no. No
Yeah,
way.
you're right. Clearly, I mean, you did it. So,
I hope so.
yeah. But that's awesome. So, are you? You said you were going to print labels on them too, right?
Yeah, I need to. I just wrote on Sharpie on the other ones like top, bottom, left, right, but I just need to just go in there and I'm just going to do the quick design text editor in the software and just print it in white and just literally just print whatever I want on there, like maybe a little arrow and say left, right, and then, I don't know, minifigure fronts, heads, arms, legs, torsos, whatever I need to. It's kind of obvious for me, but it's just nice to label things.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that process. I mean, I've never done it, so I don't know for sure. But I feel like that's another one you could give over to your friend employee pretty easily.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, print this many of this one, and then swap this palette over, and then load this up and print this many of this one. And like if they were all labeled and stuff, it would be pretty easy for him to just get going.
Yeah, and that's kind of I'm trying to look into the future about that type of stuff. And I was printing something the other day. I think I was printing like heads for figures, and then I was like, "Crap! I got to print. Just I want to test print this one prototype." And it was like the front of a minifigure body, and I just swapped the palettes on and off. That took like half a second. The only thing I had to change was the Z height. The machine has a laser that you set the Z height because different parts are going to be different heights, and that's all you have to do. And I was like off to the races. And I was like, I just pulled up this default file that I have and drag and drop my design where I want it. And, it's pretty much bang on from the testing I've done. So,
So what I'm hearing is Peyton has a probe.
yes. I've had one this whole time. Joke's on all of you. I memed all you guys. All you guys have made a meme of me. Yeah, well, I've already had one, so
Yeah, you've got a laser one.
yeah, accurate.
Oh man, that's great. Well, that's really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing. Like it's really cool to hear. I mean, because what it was like a month ago you were starting to talk about this, or a month and a half ago, and you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think it's gonna work, blah blah blah, and like to actually hear that it is taking almost no time to swap over parts. Like that's fantastic.
And like you said, it's so much nicer because it's like the old fixtures were built with Lego parts, which is great because we all know how accurate Lego parts are. They're extremely accurate. But the problem is certain fixtures, if you push too hard or you flex this or that, all it takes is like 5 thou and the whole design's off and it looks weird on the figure. And so me designing these fixtures the way I am, where it's like, okay, instead of like connecting two bricks together, you're setting a brick in a cavity that has barely any slop to it. So, in theory, just a random person off the street, if I just showed him like put these parts here, like they could do it. There's no feel. It's like almost like I'm using a torque wrench for printing now. Like it's consistent. Like there's no variables or there's way less.
Yeah, totally. Well, and you know what? I bet because you can print anything on that thing, right? Like
Yeah, wood,
any
metal.
design. Well,
Yeah.
I'm thinking like you could print a QR code on each one that brings up the file for that palette.
Yeah, you could.
And that, like, when you give it over to an employee, you can make it that simple. Like, load this palette, scan this barcode, and then hit go. Like, load it up with parts and hit go.
Yeah, I think the only thing is like, for example, like I have this palette that prints 100 heads at a time, and I mean, there's different files in the software, just like Fusion. Like there's, a zombie head file, there's a military head file, there's a World War II head file, and so it would be a bunch of different barcodes. I don't know if that would be, I don't know how you do that because it's like I need 100 zombie heads. Like, okay, that's a different barcode than the other one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you could even have it just the barcode bring up the folder then on your desktop.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Like this is the heads palette, and it'll only let you select. Well, I mean, it'd be hard to like limit selection, but you could at least just bring up File Explorer and be like, "Here's the head files. Pick the right one."
Yeah. And I think at
Um,
that point, as long as my naming of the files is pretty obvious, which it is.
yeah, yeah. Either that, or you could start like if you start doing pack orders with, or like production orders with barcodes, then you could link them to each individual file. So like give
Yeah,
him a sheet that says like print 200 of this, and then there's the barcode, and 200 of this, and there's the barcode, and like then he just goes down the line.
that's true. Yeah. I like
Either way
that.
though, I think that like you could definitely like that plus like I feel like there's a few jobs in your company that are very easily not automated, but like just handed off to almost anybody, like you said.
Yeah, and that's where I'm really pushing for that. And that's kind of brings me to my next point is that job of injection molding 3,500 parts, that actually went pretty flawless. So I think last time we talked, I mentioned it and I had made the mold and I wasn't happy with how the parts were. The parts were great, but it was getting them out of the mold was a little bit difficult.
Oh yeah,
Um,
so refresh my mind because I can't remember if you said this on air or if this was after we talked to Paul that we were talking about it.
Yeah, I can't remember either. So I got an order from a customer for some injection molded parts, 3,500 parts, and I'm thinking, okay, there's no way I'm making these parts. Like, just no. Like, I'm not standing in front of that machine for that long. Like, so I quoted as if I wasn't doing it, and he accepted it, which was great. And so I was like, all right, this is a perfect trial for like my worker buddy. And so I made the mold turned out great. The parts looked great. Everything was great, except for pulling them out of the mold was just, I could do it, but it just wasn't consistent. And like, I know how to finesse parts because this is a manual mold, a two-piece mold you open up and you grab the sprue, which is what the plastic connects to the part, and you just pull the parts out manually. You close the mold, rinse and repeat. And I know how to finesse, these guns out because I've made molds that they're tricky and I understand it. But you ask anyone else, it's like your goal is to get this plastic part out of this aluminum mold without damaging it, and they just like rip it out, and it's like, well, you just bent it, like, and so it's like, how do you convey that? So I'm like, okay, for 3,500 parts, this is not like consistent. So I'm like, all right, shoot. So I remade the mold. I made some changes, and long story short, it took I don't know, another 18 hours to run the mold, but I did half of it while I was sleeping, so I really didn't care. Um, and the parts came out like perfectly, like easy. You just pull straight up, they come right out, done. And I was like, awesome. So then let's see, I think it was, I did the math, and I think in a 5 hour shift, my friend made like anywhere from 700 to 800 guns or parts. Um,
Whoa.
and which was great. So, long story short, for this job, I mean, it only took him a couple days of coming over here, and then I finished some up myself, and it was done. I paid him a couple $100. The company made a couple thousand, and I'm just like, this is like perfect. Like, I will
That's for
gladly
life.
pay you, to do this type of stuff.
That's awesome. I'm really pumped to hear that.
So it's like I'm trying to like, and it was just interesting because you could tell he was getting more used to the machine, and like these random things would happen that I forget happen, but he like would text me because I would be up here like printing or packing orders or doing other things, and he'd text me and be like, come look at the machine. And I'm thinking, what possibly could have gone wrong? And I'm like, oh, I forgot it does that every now and then. Like, here's why. And like, I just forget about those things. But he was kind of discovering some of those holes in I guess, the system. And I was like, okay, I need to make note of that somehow.
Huh. Yeah, that's like you never realize the little things that you just brush off until you like start training other people to do it, and they ask what you think are dumb questions or like ask things and you're like, "Oh, what do you mean you don't know what to do about that? Just do it." Like,
Yeah. And so it kind of got to that point too, because like, for example, I have to bake the plastic. I have to cook it I have a toaster oven, and then I also have like a legit plastic dryer that takes all the moisture out of the plastic, and it makes the parts look way better. And for a while, I was doing that, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna spend the 5 minutes to tell him how to do this, so I don't have to like keep coming down here baking this plastic. Like, and he picked up like it's not like it's hard. I was just like, oh, I don't want to teach him, or oh, I don't know if I trust him. But it's just like do it. And then he was doing it, and I didn't have to come down there as much and whatnot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That
So
like frees you up to actually do business stuff.
yeah, and it was great because the customer just got the parts today, and he like just texted me, and he was like, "They look amazing. Like, I'll pay you the rest tonight." And I was just like, "Boom, mission accomplished."
That's badass.
Yeah.
Speaking
So
of business things, did you get Shopify inventory management yet?
so I haven't gotten the plugin for that yet. I'm almost done. I'm so close. I didn't meet my goal of yesterday. Someone else packing an order, but I inventoried, I think, I want to say 75% of everything. Um, so taken everything out, dumped it out, counted it, triple counted it, updated the website. Um, it's funny doing these things. I miss all these things. I'm like, why is that product picture not on the website? Or why is this not in this right category? So there's all those little things. And I'm glad I did it because of those little things I found. Um, and so I would like to think, I mean, I'm just going to keep pushing. I don't know when it'll be done, but I'm hoping that I can get all that set up within definitely by the end of the month, but probably within a week or so.
Awesome. Well, that's great. I know somebody commented. I can't remember what we posted on the Instagram, but somebody was like, Peyton needs to start putting like packed by Nana
Oh,
post-its.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, all orders are packed by me as of right now. Which
Well,
is it's all about recognizing problems, and technically that is a problem, I would say, that I pack all the orders.
yeah, well, we've talked about it quite a bit. I mean, even when we did our t-shirts, like it was a big pain point. So yeah, we definitely you gotta offload that to somebody.
Yeah, it's just yeah, I really enjoy this type of work. I enjoy it sounds I keep mentioning it, but like working on the business versus in the business. But like it's so true. Like I enjoy like everything is organized, everything's labeled now, everything has like a bin location in my inventory room. And it's just like this is how it should have been like this whole time. But like it's fine. We're here now, like we're learning, and like it's just gonna be so good. And I'm just so excited for it, especially now that I'm restocking probably I don't know. I would say probably 2,000 figures. And so, like,
Jeez.
once all those are, that's why I need to make these printing fixtures because I'm like, I'm not printing 5 of these at a time. Like, that's going to take too many times. And so, once all those products get restocked, and it's a good workflow because like I started creating some new products and releasing them, and I'm like, don't put them on the website, Peyton. Yes, they are done, but they're not packaged and they're not counted. Yes, you could probably, what I would do is I would be like, I know there's 50 of them in there, there might be like 100, but I'm like, I know there's 50, let's just get them on the website, and start generating sales. Then all of a sudden sales would keep coming in, and then I would forget to count them, and then they'd sell out and there's still 50 left. And it's just like, no, like count them, pictures on the website, post them, like until all that's done, then they go in the inventory room and then they go on the website. And it's just like, it sounds so dumb, but I'm so used to like just post it, just like come on, like I'm all excited.
Right, yeah, you want to get those orders in, but then it takes a ton of time to actually get orders shipped because you have all that stuff to do. I get you for sure.
Yeah, so I'm much better about that lately.
Awesome. Well, I'm super pumped. Like it really sounds like, I mean, like again, not to talk too much about it, but it sounds like reading the E-Myth has really changed your outlook on your business.
Yeah, I finished that up a couple days ago. I'm reading this new book now, but yeah, that definitely I had to reread the first like 50 pages of the E-Myth because I kind of picked up the book at a weird point because I had already read it, but I was like, I need to reread the first little bit. But yeah, It's good. Everything's good.
So speaking of reading, this came up. Jake posted about it, and I thought it was a great idea, and we just need to talk off air and figure out how we want to administer it. But I would like to start with Intolerance Book Club. Like you had mentioned, sending me a book, and then I'd send it on and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like I posted it on our stories, and I had a bunch of people all comment said that they wanted to join. And T5 Manufacturing, I think, was the first one who was getting the book from Jake. Um, so
I'm just
we'll have
kind
to
of
talk.
I was just going to kind of brainstorm right here if you want.
Yeah. I'm just not sure if like everybody should give us their contact info and what books they have to send around, and then we'll just like randomly assign people and then give them the next person to send it on to, or what.
I
That's
kind of like your idea. Didn't you do this at your day job with the E-Myth? Like, I'm just gonna kind of spitball here and jump in whenever. But like, if we all picked a book, like me and you mentioned, what was it, The Goal?
Mhm.
Let's say like if you already have it, great. I don't have it, I'll buy it. Let's say, we say, all right, guys, everyone that's listening, next week, I want you to be through The Goal pages 1 through 50, and then we'll have a little 10-minute segment where we talk about it.
Oh, I
Um,
like that. Yeah.
and then we just keep going. And yes, people are going to be buying books, but like, come on, guys, like $20 for a book every couple months. I think most people can handle that. Um, and that way we all have it. We're not shipping things all over the place, and we can all kind of build our own libraries of these books.
Yeah, I kind of like that. And maybe actually that provides us a really good opportunity to do like a monthly giveaway.
Yeah.
And like maybe we could buy a couple copies of the book and throw stickers in it and then send it to, I don't know, whatever our contest will be that month, but like a few people will be part of the book club automatically through winning.
Yeah. And I just like the idea of, okay, if I say, let's start reading The Goal next week, be through page 50, and then submit your questions, or comments, and it could be like, I don't know, Jake could be like, hey, did you pick up on the part where he talked about this? And I could be like, oh yeah, I really like that part because of blah blah blah. And you can just elaborate on like that set of pages that we our homework, let's say.
Yeah, no, I really like that idea. I think that that'll definitely provide more of like a community too, because like I like the idea of sending the book around so that way everybody's not buying the same book. But at the same time, like if I send my book to somebody and then they're like, "Oh, what did you think of this part?" It's like, well, I'm already 2 books deep past that. Like
Exactly.
I don't
Yeah.
remember. Whereas if we're all reading it together, I think we'll all have like pretty good insights. So yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's well, we
Figure
could
out a
post.
book.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do the goal, I already have it. I've just got whatever Jocko's book is,
Okay.
Extreme Ownership, and then the other one that was recommended to me was Traction.
Okay.
So any of those, I'm totally willing to read the goal again. Like it's a really quick read, and B, I really enjoyed it. So
Let's do that then. Let's announce more officially on Instagram for everyone that's listening, but I'll buy that book, and whenever that comes, we'll figure that out. But anyone that has any ideas or anything that stands out for this kind of book club system, feel free to message us while we're kind of figuring it out too.
yeah, well, and let's say that we'll start reading it in 2 weeks. So on the 15th,
Yeah.
we will give our first assignment, and then on the 29th is when we'll pick it up and start talking about it.
Should we just right now just assume it's going to be the goal? I think that's a
Yeah,
good one to start.
let's say the goal, and you've got until the 15th to get your copy.
Okay, and just to confirm, who wrote that?
I want to say it's like Eliyahu Goldrat. I don't. I'm
Yep.
pretty sure.
Yeah, I think I see
Yeah,
it here.
and there's like
Paperback on Amazon for $19.
yeah,
A
and there's
process of
a
ongoing improvement. Is that it?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's got the guy with his fingers interlaced in the theory
Yep.
of constraints. It says on the front. There's also a graphic novel of it. I don't know how well that matches. I don't know if it's just the text of the book with pictures or if it's condensed text. So buy that at your own risk.
And
Um,
should we throw out there? I don't know your thoughts on this, but I feel like it should be you got to buy the physical book.
um, I'm I think I prefer having books because I can highlight them and stuff. But like, I don't care if you guys want to get the Audible audio book or whatever. Um, you just need to find a way that you can stay up with whatever
The
chapters we're
date,
on.
yeah.
Yeah. So like if I've never used Audible, so I don't know how it breaks up chapters and stuff. But if you've got a good way of seeing what chapters are there, we'll be talking about it per the chapters. So you just need some way to like make sure that you're reading or listening to the same amount that we're going to talk about, or past that, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I
Cool. Well,
like that
this
idea.
yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun actually. I'm
It'll just
really
give us like a segment to talk about.
yeah yeah that'll be a lot of fun, and I think the goal is like it's it's a fiction book with a business premise behind it, so
Okay.
it's a lot of fun. Like I think it's a really good read. Um, so yeah, all right. So but yeah, we will assign chapters on the 15th. That'll give time for Peyton to get his, and I for me to find mine if I still have it. If not,
And
order
everyone
another
else
one.
to get one.
Yeah, and everyone has to get one, and then Peyton and I will go over off air how many chapters there are and how long we want it to last, and then we'll assign chapters on the 15th for everybody to read by the 29th.
So, class, listen, class. Just to rehash, because some of you guys already know what you guys are going to do. You're going to buy the book and you're going to start reading it. So, buy the book. That's your homework for right now. So, you're listening to this podcast, go on Amazon, buy the book, get the book, hold the book, don't touch the book. And then once we figure out how long to read, then start it. The whole point of this is everyone does it at the same time. I don't want Jake over there to be on, oh, I'm on chapter 20. And it's like, Jake, we only assigned the first 5 chapters. Like, so, let's take a chill pill a little bit but I really do like this idea because it'll be cool because everyone, and also I think it'd be cool, everyone like post on your story, be like, I don't know, come up with a hashtag WTP book club or something.
Yeah,
um,
WTP book club. We've already taken over a WTP meme from whatever random guy had one post
yeah.
today. So now
Yeah, but
WTP book club is ours.
yeah, but post about it and like say that you're getting ready, and I'm curious to see how many people actually do this. I think it'd be cool if we got like, I don't know, 50 people or something.
Yeah, I mean, like we already get so many questions every week that I'm like always surprised. Like I was telling you just before we recorded, like I posted this morning thinking like, oh, I won't get that many. It'll be a short episode. And then like a
Then
ton of you
Dylan
guys.
copied paste this giant essay into this Google sheet in front of my
Yeah.
face.
I put it in the wrong Google sheet all day thinking like, oh, I gave like Peyton plenty of time to look at the questions today. I feel so accomplished. And then I'm like, oh, I put it in the template, not the right episode. So anyway, even if like we just get a handful of people doing it, I think it'll be a good development, for all of us, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot.
Um, Other things you mentioned shirts, yeah. So we just got the new shirt samples from the new place. I think it's the exact same shirt. Like it was hard to tell because um the shirts that we ordered the first time, that like that company doesn't include model numbers in the tags.
Oh, interesting.
But it feels the same. And I was going to ship yours, and then I realized you'll just be here next weekend, so I'll
Yeah, I was
just
just about to say, yeah.
and as long as you like it, I'll go ahead and put it on the website, and then I'll also start posting some like this or that questions in our stories, because we've got a bunch of like quotes from past episodes that we were thinking about making T-shirts on, like I'm a dirty machinist, or M6 T1 or TX versus TX versus or TX M6, stuff like that. And so we'll start doing some head to heads in our stories and see what you guys want as our next shirt to come out.
Yeah, so once again, that'll probably be, I think, not next episode, but the following one is going to be, our next solo one's going to be big with this book club, and then the shirts we'll probably know by then. So,
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of that, I guess we should probably record one while you're here.
oh, yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have a bonus episode, like we can record it in my shop or something.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's more admin stuff on our side. We'll figure all that out. So, do you want to do questions first, or do you want to talk about what you researched this week?
Questions.
Gives you some time to go back through history.
Yeah.
All right. First one was from Josh Hacko, and he said, I'd love to hear about crashes, expensive errors, and all those horror stories, either from work or that you've done. You got any good ones?
So at my last job, I came in and the lead machinist had left for a week. And this machine was a DMG Evo 50. And first of all, I hated that machine. Everybody did. And that machine, I think, was a 2004 or something like that. And it had been running the same program for like 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for probably that whole lifespan. Um, and 5-axis machine. And one day I came in, I fire it up, and it's running, and I'm like, the spindle sounds like really loud, and I'm like, and the other guy was like, just keep running it, and I'm just like, okay. And then it kept getting louder, and I was like, okay. Then the next day I came in, same thing, but it was like even louder, and I like just it wasn't even cutting, and I went to go hit cycle start for the first program, and it turned the spindle on at like 8,000 RPMs, and it was just the loudest grinding noise I've ever heard. And I was like,
Ooh.
nope, e-stop, nope, like no, no, no. And that was the last leg of the spindle. The bearings were just completely shot. Um, and just everything had to be, the whole spindle had to be replaced. Nothing to do with my fault, but I happened to be the one that figured it out.
Oh,
um, and I just remember them replacing that. And it was just so sad because that machine probably wasn't worth that much. And then the owner spent like $50,000 on a new spindle. And I was just like, dude, you could have bought like a new machine with that. Like,
ooh.
um, and so it's just like, ew, no thanks.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I've told this story before on the podcast, but the worst crash I've had, or at least the one that did the most damage, was like I think it was either the first or the second job I was setting up ever in the first shop I worked in, and it was these. We had these long, I think they were 8 or 10 inch jaws, and they were steel jaws with a aluminum carrier you could bolt into the top to like cut soft jaws in. But like the whole thing wasn't a soft jaw. You just had like, I don't know, 200 thou deep by 300 or 400 thou wide on each jaw that bolted in, and you could machine. And so I was cutting these steps for these really long flat parts, and I cut it with a face mill. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm a genius. I'm gonna save myself some time. And like I'm already at the depth that I cut this at, and so I'm just gonna put that Z number in as my G54Z and then go up from there. And the mistake I made was that I didn't take into the account the length of the tool.
Uh-oh.
And so first move on the part, or the first thing, is it comes in with the shell mill and plunges at 100 inches a minute and then goes over and cuts the top of the part off. While I was, I don't know, an inch and a half, 2 inches off of where it should have been. So the first thing it did is plunge into the steel, well, through the aluminum jaws and into the steel jaws at 100 inches a minute. And I e-stopped it, of course, before it started moving over and, really destroyed something. But like it was, I toasted 2 or 3 of the seats for the face mill, ruined the jaws, ruined the part. And like I said, it was probably either the first or second part that they had ever let me set up on my own. And so like I walk, hanging my head into my boss's office with the face mill, and I'm just like, I'm so sorry. I didn't think. And like I knew immediately what I did wrong and told him. And like thankfully, and I have said this, like his whole idea, or his whole thing that he said to me constantly, like every other day, he would say, he'd be like, can you hurry up and screw up so that I can start trusting you? And so like every time I screwed up, he never like screamed at me, never got mad. And like granted, I didn't screw up that many times, but every time I did, he would just like make sure that I understood the lesson, understood what went wrong, and be like, okay, I know you won't make that mistake again. And so he just like had me price out a new body for that face mill and like inserts and all of that, and give him all the information so that I knew how much the face mill cost and how much I had just damaged. And I had to reset up the job, and he stoned the seats of the face mill, and it never cut the same again, but it still worked. And So it was it was definitely one of those moments where I was like, walking to his office, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be fired or if he's going to make me pay for this $500 face mill or like what's going on. And like, thankfully, he was super understanding and like could see that despite me being super naive, that I had some skill and some talent that he wanted to cultivate. So that's one of the worst crashes I've had. And then the other one that comes to mind was not my crash, but a guy I was working with. Um, and I was right next to him, and I just about pooped my pants because of it. And it was on a robo drill, and this part is like I don't know, it's like an aluminum disc that's maybe 8 inches in diameter or something like that. And it's this cover, and it's up on a fixture that holds it at 45 degrees away from you. So like the top of the angle is pointing towards the back of the machine,
Yeah.
and the front is down. And like there's two holes that we're putting cross holes in. Then they like the tool hangs out super long with an extension, and one hole is G54 and the other hole is G55. And this guy's a super competent setup guy, like actually super super competent, and just had like a total brain fart and only put a number in G54 and somehow thought to himself, oh well, if I leave G55 0, it won't move. And what ended up happening is when it goes from one hole to the other, it's got 2 inches, 2+ inches of extension hanging down past the part. And he had his rapids fairly high up, and I'm like right around the corner working on something else, like literally around the corner of the machine. Like I was almost touching the machine, and instead of not moving like he expected it, it tries to rapid through the part with
Oh,
to go
Jesus.
to G5300 pretty much, because he just had 00 in G55, and hits it so hard it snaps the pull stud off, and the tool comes tumbling out of the spindle and bouncing around the enclosure.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was scary. And like thankfully, I don't know how he did it, but he broke it so quickly and so aggressively that it did not scar the taper at all. It didn't ruin anything. Like I think he took a stone up there and like stoned off one little burr or something that he had kicked up, but like we still use that machine all the time and it holds really good tolerance. So like he somehow broke that machine in the perfect way to not cause
Just
any damage and just make
boom,
us both
break it.
almost poop our pants. Yeah, it was crazy though. Like it was so fast and so violent. And like I said, I was right there. Like I thought that I was going to get hit by something. And it just, yeah, it was absolutely bizarre. And like he just stood there with a dumb look. Like he had the door open too because he was proving this thing out.
Oh God.
And somehow didn't get hit. Nothing happened. Like it was just, oh man, it was scary. So anyway, and it wasn't actually that expensive in an error, but it was a pretty nasty crash. So I'll think on some more though. I know I've got a ton that I've seen just people do really stupid stuff.
Yeah, I haven't
Can't think of
really
any.
seen like any like crazy dumb things. I don't know. The other one that comes to mind for me is like when I was working at the Swiss shop, this guy like was just about to leave and I was going to take over this machine and he's like the parts are running great and I'm like so I can hit the cycle start button and he's like yeah and he's still standing there so I'm like all right like cycle start and it's on like M99 like all right it's just going to run and I'm watching it and you know this is like a 20-second cycle time and I'm like looking and I'm like okay just finished everything on the main like okay the sub's just chilling over there okay why is the part catcher still out part catcher's still out okay 15 seconds 16 seconds parts catcher still has not retracted oh okay there goes the sub spindle into the parts catcher and I'm just
Oh
like
no.
and I just like stop it and I'm just like I honestly like I still to this day don't take responsibility for that because like that's how he left the machine and he was I literally looked at him I'm like can I press cycle start and he's like yes and I'm like okay like I thought it would retract it didn't
Oh my goodness.
and luckily it just like bent like this piece of sheet metal for the parts catcher and we just bent it back but I was like oh it's just one of those like cringe moments where you just like
Yeah, that's insane.
yeah no thanks.
Well, hopefully that whets Josh's appetite for some horror stories, and we'll come up with some more and maybe talk about them
Yeah.
next time. Our next question was from Kelvin over at Urban Survival Gear, and he says upgrading your business model for scaling, i.e., solopreneur centered. I do everything myself versus entrepreneur acquiring equipment that the employee will likely have experience with. He's going through this right now.
Honestly, Kelvin, I feel like you're the better person to talk to about this stuff than we are.
Well, I would just say that like no control is really that different than another, and like any competent employee will be able to use anything you have. Like if you have somebody that can only use like one kind of control, it means that they're not that experienced, and like you're going to have to train them regardless to do things your way. So you might as well buy machines that you like and like that you find make the best parts, because like like until you have somebody in your company that is making those kind of decisions and has that kind of experience where they can choose the best machines, like you need to decide what makes your parts the best for you, and then make sure that you have a training program in place or a way of vetting your new employees that they can run those kind of machines, because like nothing's all that different. Like yeah, Fanuc is a little harder to use than Haas, is a little harder to use than other stuff, but like they all run G code. The buttons are more or less the same. If you've used a Haas, you can probably get your way around a Fanuc with a little bit of difficulty and maybe some manual reading, but like you'll get it, and it's not that bad.
Yeah, you got to break down, like, that's a good way of putting it. Like, all the buttons are there. Maybe for Fanic, you have to dig in a couple menus to find the button, but other than that, it's going to be there.
Yeah, like there's more soft menus and like more manual stuff in a Fanuc that's like kind of a pain to use, but you still have position and MDI and memory and edit, and like the basics are still there. And if you're just using them to run a machine, you show them where the buttons are anyway. And if they're more advanced than that, where you're trusting them to set up and stuff, you can train them relatively easily. Like I have yet to use a control where I'm just like completely lost, and like I haven't used Akuma yet. I know that theirs is their own base, but like it, even from what I've seen, it's not that bad. Brothers Easy, Fanuc is pretty universal. It's not easy, but it's universal. Haas is super easy. I don't even know what else is out there. Like it's I don't know. It's all more or less the same. I guess
Yeah.
Fidal is kind of bizarre, but even then, I'm sure you could figure it out. So
Yeah, and as far as like other things for like scaling goes, I think if you listen to the last couple episodes, I mean, I think both of us are kind of moving towards this, like, we're looking 5 years down the line, what can we do so when we get to 2025 we were like prepared for it. And for me, it's like, how do I be more efficient about doing this, or what can I offload, what should I and I shouldn't I be doing. And then for Dylan, it's, he was talking about like the automatic like orders and the monitor he got for all that, and just like all those little things. It's try to look ahead and say, okay, one, what do I want my end business to be? Do you want it to be a 10 employee company and it's just you right now? Okay, perfect. Okay, how are you going to hire your first 5 employees? What is that going to look like? And what systems are going to be necessary for you to have 5 employees and not be running around just like a daycare trying to take care of 5 employees when they should be able to do their own thing?
yeah, yeah, I completely agree. That's a good thing to think about too. Um, and I feel like Kelvin does an excellent job at that. So I don't know. I think that you'll figure out the machines. Just buy like your product is known for being very high quality, so buy the machines that let you make a high quality part without having other Kelvins run machines. Like you should have people like, I'm not saying buy the go hire from McDonald's, but you shouldn't have to have CEO level employees run every one of your machines to make good parts. So buy a machine that lets you make good parts. And like from what I've seen, you have done that. Like you've got what, one or two citizens now. So he's well on his way to having really excellent machinery to continue making his great product.
Yeah. So
All right. Next one from Emery Rempel. He says, drawbar force and high pressure coolant. If my Haas is pushing 1,000 psi into the top of my tool holder, is that reducing how hard my drawbar is pulling the tapers together? Should I back off how aggressive I'm running if the coolant is trying to blow the tool holder out of the spindle, or am I looking at this wrong? From what I understand, there's a seal there that's actually forcing it through the pull stud, so it shouldn't be. I mean, yeah, it shouldn't be. Like if it's rated to 1,000 psi,
It's probably
you know,
rated for 2,000 then.
yeah. Well, and like, well, no machine tool builder should be allowing a psi on your through spindle coolant that compromises their drawbar. So like that's entirely up to like what kind of machine you have and what kind of high pressure coolant system they offer. But like it should not be affecting the mechanism of your drawbar from what I understand, at least. If somebody else has better information than me, definitely reach out and I'll make sure to issue a retraction next time. But as far as I know, if you've got 1,000 psi coolant that was issued by your machine tool builder or is allowed as an option by your machine tool builder, it should not be compromising your taper at all.
Yeah, I don't have experience, but that makes sense. And just from my little knowledge of Haas, well, a little more than a little, but it's like same with like power. Like my machine says it, I mean, or a VF2 claims it takes what, 80 amps. It's like everyone I talk to, it takes like 30, 40. So if your machine says 1,000 psi, like I said, it's probably rated for a lot more, just for a factor of safety. So I would like to think you would be totally okay.
Yeah. Well, and like I don't know that you'd actually be using all 1,000 on an end mill. Like the reason that people buy 1,000 psi is for like tiny drills and stuff like that. Like, and
Yeah.
if you look at your I'm not 100% sure, but I think on a lot of those high pressure coolant systems, the psi coming out of the tool is dependent on the orifice that it's coming out of. And
Yep.
so like if you're not using a insanely tiny tool somehow with a through spindle hole, it shouldn't be nearly that pressure. And again, I think it seals on the top of your pull stud, so it should only be forcing it through the pull stud, not against your pull stud, if that makes any sense. And there's not enough really surface area there at your pull stud to make a difference. Like you're talking about, the size of a postage stamp, and so force is equal to your surface area. So or proportional to your surface area. So it really shouldn't be forcing that much.
Yeah.
And this other one was for Paul. So we'll just have to forward that on to him. Next one's from T5 Manufacturing, which is awesome. I think you saw his Instagram post. He's got that really cool caliper holster product that he's going to send us to try out.
Yeah, I was kind of confused at first because I think he had sent me a message. He just sent me like a picture with no context, and I was really confused what I was looking at. And then he tagged us, and I was like, oh. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
I think it's
super
really cool.
excited about it because I literally, the day that he sent me that, or maybe the day before, spent 15 minutes looking for my caliper because I couldn't remember where I put it. And I like put it on top of something that was at eye level and just never saw it.
It just fell in the engine that you guys were working on because you ran
Yeah.
out of table space.
Well, and like between Brad and I, we only have one caliper at the shop, which we're going to remedy pretty shortly here.
Yeah,
But
that
like,
needs to be fixed.
he'll take it and I'll be like, where's the caliper? I'm trying to set a tool or I'm trying to measure something. He's like, oh, sorry, I was using it over here. So
It's
if I had
over
a holster
there.
for it, yeah. And so it's going to be called the Talon from T5. And I'm super pumped about that. But anyway, he sent a couple questions. His first one was, what's your recording setup, mic brand, model, etc.?
So we use Zencaster, and then I don't know. I'm trying to look at my mic here without getting too close to it, making you guys ears tingle. I'll post it. I have the box still. It's a really nice mic. It's like a $200 or $300 mic, but like it's really nice, and I definitely like this over like my headset that we used for that live event. I think my voice comes across a lot better on this.
What
Dylan
was
would
bizarre about that is like your voice over the video, like on YouTube, sounds totally fine, and then on Zencaster sounded super tinny.
really.
Yeah, it was bizarre. Like I went back and listened to a little bit of the podcast, and I was like, man, what is wrong with Peyton's voice? And then I like went and listened to the video, and I was like, sounds fine here. I don't know. It's bizarre.
Yeah, that's weird. I really like this. Sounds dumb, but I really like the way my voice is portrayed through this mic. So I'll post that. I don't know the name of it. And then I also have like a mic stand and like a pop filter, and then this like little thing that like it's like a U shaped with the sound deadening foam. So it's like I'm kind of in my own little cubby hole right now. So how's it going, everybody?
Yeah, and I've got a blue ice ball or ice something like that. Blue snowball ice, that's what it is. And then a stand for it and a little pop filter and all that stuff too. But it was one of those things right in the beginning where I was like, I don't have a mic at all that I can use for this, so I need to buy something, but I don't want to spend over $100 if our podcast is not going to last that long.
Oh well, you were wrong about that. We're out
I
here.
was, I was, and I'm considering getting a Yeti from Blue also,
Okay.
but I don't know. I've listened back to the podcast, and I think this mic does a really good job for like $60 or whatever it was.
It really does. I mean, listening to you for a year straight, I can attest to that.
Well, I appreciate that. It was not a bad buy at all then. But yeah, let me check. I'm pretty sure it's the blue snow. Yeah, blue snowball ice. Um, yeah, it's between 50 and $70 depending on where you buy it from. Um, Favorite hand tool in the shop.
You go first.
Um, hmm. Either my caliper or my quantum mic. I think I've said that before. Like, or people have asked my favorite tool. I'm like, it's probably one of those.
Yeah, I like my digital calipers, and then I really like my Noga deburr tool, and then I got those backside hole ones that we talked about a while back. I got all the sizes of those, and those are nice.
Those are fun, aren't they? Like,
Yeah, they're a weird little idea. Like I want to know who thought of that.
yeah, same. Like somebody's like, I can flip this sideways with a bar and then pop it back and it'll pop back and I'll be able to deburr
Yeah,
the backside of the hole. Like, what?
like
Okay, sure.
I kind of want to meet you, but I kind of don't because that's kind of weird that you thought of that. But like at the same time, engineering.
He asked if we had tried Carhartt Force t-shirts. And he said that it's his favorite t-shirt. And I've tried like one or two Carhartt shirts in the past and they're just too thick for me because it's like over 100 here most of the
Yeah, I was
year.
about to say.
Like my favorite shirts are like these super thin t-shirts that I get. But I have not tried the Carhartt ones. One of my favorite jackets as a kid was a Carhartt jacket though, so I do like um I like their stuff. It's just too thick for most of my everyday.
Yeah, see, in Washington, it's a little different.
Yeah, yeah, you can get by with a little. Oh, actually, looking at the shirts though, they don't look nearly as thick as some of the other Carhartt stuff I've used in the past. So I'll have to give them a shot.
I've not tried those, but I saw in I think it was one of Grimsmo's videos. I don't know if it was him or his worker Sky, but he had some Carhartt like work pants, and I picked those up. And once again, it's been too warm to really try much, but they're really nice. They're really just thick pants that like I'm not afraid to get dirty. Um, and yeah, they're just really nice.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. They make really good stuff, so I'm sure I'd like the shirt. I just have to try it. I'll have to see if our new shirt place offers them.
Are you gonna contact your local Carhartt distributor?
No, no, hard pass.
Hard
Oh, actually,
pass.
speaking of distributors, though, I did sign up
No.
for. Well, look, it's kind of the anti-distributor.
Okay, okay, okay.
Productivity Inc. was recommended to me, and they're online, and like you can make an account with them, and you can order Helical and Harvey and some other brands. So I think I'm waiting for a call back from them to like confirm my account, but I'm super excited for that.
Yeah,
And
that would
then
be cool.
I think we mentioned it on here, but you can buy Helical through Tormach now too, online.
Yeah.
So that's nice. We're finally getting access to these tools without having to go through a terrible distributor. um, let's see. Oh, so next one, any more progress on the kitty windows? Yep. Hopefully by the end of the week I'll have them ordered and then get that thing out of here.
Oh, that'll be kind of weird. I'll get to see that
Oh yeah,
machine.
it is dirty right now. Like we wrote it hard and put it away wet the last time we used it, and just like have not done anything with it. So Yeah, I'm excited for you to see the shop though. You'll be able to see what we're working with.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I already know. I already have a video idea. We'll talk off air about something I want to film with your machine.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Uh, his last question was, what kind of parts washer and or finisher do y'all use? What about
Uh,
you?
I have a little ultrasonic cleaner I use for small parts, but other than that, just sink and water and soap.
Yeah, I don't even have a sink,
Oh
so we
shoot.
like fill buckets. Like we'll do the two bucket system, one with
Yep.
water and simple green, and one to wash them off. I also have a bead blaster that we use to finish parts, and I also have a small little ultrasonic for small parts.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of the stuff, I don't know about you, but a lot of the stuff I do normally gets clear anodized or black anodized, and the anodizing company always cleans them. So I'm not, as long as there's no chips on the parts, I'm not as worried about, stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Actually, I use isopropyl too to clean most of my parts. It's been a little tougher since all of this happened, but I can still get 70% at least, and I just spray it down and wipe it around and get all the coolant off, and then blow 'em, air dry them.
Yep.
All right, next one from Raven Rock Machine. He says, well, he's got a few. He wanted to know what we use for coolant mist removal systems, what we think of Lang fourth, fifth work holding, because he's looking into it right now for his fourth. And then when do you guys prefer to use shrink fit versus ER versus hydraulic?
I have a mist away. I don't know, Dylan, do you have one?
I have one. It is not hooked up. I was actually just thinking about that this weekend. Because we bought it for the kitty, and so I bought like the 6-inch riser, I think, and like the I can't remember what they call it, but the little thing that wraps around your coolant uh, power line to
Yep.
turn it on and
Yep. Yep.
off.
Yep.
But I can't use that on the brother because the brother runs the pump the entire time. So
Oh,
I need to figure out
interesting.
another way to trigger it, and I'm pretty sure I can just hook into the IO on the brother and trigger it with an M code. So I just need to figure out a way to do that. And I
Is
just
that
need to do
because
some
the
more research
brother,
on that.
it's like always ready because of how fast it is? It needs to get the coolant, just like, what is that called? Like a check valve?
Yeah, yeah. So it deadheads right up by the spindle, and then when you when it gets like an M8 to turn on coolant, it
It's just there.
yeah, it just opens a pneumatic valve that allows it to come out the rest of the way.
Got it.
Yeah, but both of my brothers do that, so they must have been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, you need to
It,
get that hooked up.
it threw Brad and I for a loop when we first got the TC because we didn't realize like how it worked, and so like Brad and I kept stabbing at the coolant button. We're like, dude, it's not working. What the heck? And then finally, I was like, I don't know. Have you given it a command yet? And he's like, I don't know. Let's try MA. And it was like started spraying. I was like, that's weird. And you can hear the air valve go on and off, and you're like, oh, wait a second. And then we found it digging around. We're like, oh, that's where it is right there.
Huh.
So, um, as far as fourth, fifth work holding, I don't have either at my shop, but at
Neither
work
do I.
we've got Lang on 3 or 4 machines, and we're slowly adding into the rest. And it's super high quality. Like I think I've talked a little bit on the podcast about the issues I had with Lang USA. They just screwed up 2 of our custom fixtures. Like they took off the shelf fixtures and put custom locating features in it, and their probe was off in their machine, I think. But anyway, they fixed them finally, and everything since then has been great. And their pull studs are actually cheaper than fifth axis. So like their fixtures are more expensive, but their pull studs, if you want to continue to make fixtures, is cheaper.
Oh, because they all use the same style, more or less?
Yeah, they're all the same thread, but like they're just slightly different enough so you can't use them between.
Oh,
Yeah, so like, but you can buy like they all use 96 millimeter mounting locations,
yeah.
just different studs. So like we bought a fifth axis master pallet to use on our Lang because the Lang one is like 4 times the price
Oh,
of the
interesting.
fifth axis one. And like the fifth axis one came with an inspection report and all that stuff and was really good. So I do like that fifth axis offers the poka yoke studs where like you can only put them in one way. You definitely want to like engrave your fixtures or something like that if you're going to be taking them on and off. Like we're using it more at work for like quick change fixturing, but not shuttle pallets. So it doesn't like the opportunity to load it wrong is greatly minimized that way. But yeah, I think that Lang's pretty amazing. Like their stuff is rated really well. It's built really well. Um, yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with it. But people
Yeah.
seem to really like the fifth axis stuff too. So I don't have enough experience with the fifth axis stuff to say yay or nay.
Yeah, I don't think I've used either of their stuff in any of the shops I've worked at, to be honest. It was all like Shunk or other companies.
And then his last question: when do you guys prefer to use shrink fit versus ER versus hydraulic?
Well, I don't have either. I mean, I s- I'm not trying to make a joke here, but I wonder if some of the people listening think we have like giant machine shops. What if that's the thing? What if they just stumble upon this and they're like, "Look at these two billionaires." And they're like, they've
And
got
then they
like
listen for 5 seconds and they're like, never mind.
they're like, "Wait, they just read the E-Myth?" Yeah, no.
Well, like for me, I only use shrink fit right now for roughing end mills that I want a really good grip on. ER is pretty much my go-to for like standard tools, drills, taps, small end mills, all that stuff. ER and SK. I like SK for low run out stuff. And then I've never used hydraulics. Like I know that there are some out there that are supposedly good for roughing. I've heard far too many stories of pullout in hydraulics when you're trying to use them for roughing. From what I've heard, they're great for finishing. So I don't know. I personally, I feel like I don't know. I've just never had a reason to try hydraulic. I do have one of those Uber chucks, but I'm actually thinking I'm going to get rid of it for real cheap. Like we used it maybe 2 or 3 times in the kitty, and the for BT30 at least, the stick out from the spindle is really long, and they don't offer them in dual contact, and like the collets are fairly expensive. And like I got the holder for a steal on eBay and the collet for a steal on eBay, so I'm probably just gonna like I don't know, maybe I'll post it in my stories or something for real cheap and see if anybody wants it.
I was about to say, I'm like, if that's 40 taper, I'll take it, but
No, unfortunately not. It's like great, and like the holding power is great, the runout's great, but like just for what we're doing, like I don't know, I don't think that it's not my preferred choice. I guess is the way I'd say it. Like I think there are better solutions out there. If I was going to spend $100+ in a collet and like a few $100 per tool holder, I'd rather save up and go down like the Rego Fix route on the Power Grips route than continue to buy more Uber Chuck stuff.
yeah, I didn't see the part of the question about the ER. I have all ER stuff. ER 16 or 32.
Speaking of which, you got to get that tool lots holder sent out for balancing and
Yeah, does
all that stuff.
anyone here work at a shop that has a balancer? There's got to be someone.
I saw somebody recently. I can't remember who it was on Instagram, but they just got a balancer, one of the
Okay.
Hamer balancers. I'll have to go and find it and send it to you.
Yeah, if anyone's got one, I want to send you two tool holders that are unmarked, and I want you to tell me which one's better.
All right, next questions were from Obsidian Tools, who makes. I don't know if you've seen his like little phone charger and caddy station things.
No,
They're gorgeous.
really.
Yeah, they're like Porsche inspired little charging billet stations with like a leather inset for your phone.
Oh, I see it here.
And he's got this Chiron uh, that has the like a basket tool changer they're called, and it's like the most bizarre tool
Oh,
changer I've
yeah.
ever seen. Um, but yeah, he makes they're really gorgeous pieces. I think he was even selling them in one of the Porsche like buildings now or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, but anyway, he asked, "What are your 5-year goals?" So you kind of briefly touched on it, but what are your 5-year goals? 2025.
Shoot. To go to IMTS and get a beer with the boys.
That's a
uh,
good goal.
yeah, I like that one actually. um, oh man, 5 years. Wow, it's gonna be here by tomorrow, so I really need to think about this one. Shop space would be cool. And like legitimate like employees would be really cool. Like to have someone that's you know always doing this or like this. I think to have. I mean, a lot can happen in a year. 5 years. I think I could have 5 employees by then.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's doable. And then I don't know. I just want to be streamlined and just keep up the whole brand that I have going of like for the Lego side of things, like high quality American made products and just like my whole slogans like made right, made precise, made American, like just keep that up.
Nice.
What about
Um,
you?
5 years, we will definitely have another new machine. I will hopefully have picked up some production work and have a robot cell, at least one robot cell running production. So I want to do like 50% prototype, 30% production, and 20% my own products in the next 5 years.
Yeah, so those new products that needs to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're getting there. Once I get the fixture plate on and can kind of swap between jobs a little quicker, I'll be able to, hot swap some stuff in and out of the machine and get my own products going.
I can't wait to see that on the machine. I'm just gonna play with that machine all day. I hope you realize that.
Yeah, no, that's the plan. For sure. So yeah, that's my 5-year goals. I mean, I'd like to have maybe an employee or two. We'll see. I'll definitely be full time at my shop in the next 5 years, like for sure. Um, yeah. And then his other question was, do you guys know exactly how much your product parts cost you to make, labor plus machine plus packaging, power, marketing, etc., and compare it with what you thought costs were going to be more efficient in pricing other jobs? I think is what it says. Yeah.
I don't know down to that level of like power and stuff. Like that's pretty crazy to think about. I know there's some companies like I always wonder that is like you wonder, and I would have to think like when do you stop taking in data? Like, do you know if you would assume that like Toyota knows like for a Forerunner like I have like how much just like energy like just literal power took to make that car. Like, do you think they know that or do you think it matters at that point?
I think they probably know it. Like especially in companies that size, they've got money to blow on like positions that they might not need in a couple of years. So like they'll start a whole division to analyze that kind of stuff in the efforts of being lean, and then after 3 or 4 years of analyzing stuff, be like, well, I guess that didn't matter.
Yeah.
So I think they probably know. I definitely don't break things out that nitty gritty. All of my quoting spreadsheets have my rough times in them that I thought, and then very often, well, I don't know, 50% of the time I'll go back and double check like my cycle time in Fusion versus what I got on my quoting spreadsheet and see if I met it or exceeded it. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think a lot of my stuff right now is more guesstimating. I've tried systems like I had Asana hooked up with T Metric for a while that tracked time, but you have to remember to log into it. And like, it just, I don't know, if you're putting systems in place that take more than like 2 or 3 mouse clicks, you're probably not going to keep them down the line. And so I've just been trying to keep it easy and like have a rough idea. Like that's why talking with Paul last week, I was like very excited about something like ProShop because I'd love to know more. Like I'd love to be able to track my time easy, but right now I haven't found a good solution to like be able to track my time and not feel like it's a hassle. So yeah, it's more a rough guesstimate now, and then going back and checking some stuff.
Yeah, I'm the same way. For some of the Lego stuff, I do get pretty nitty gritty. I'm like, okay, this bag cost me 3 cents. and then shipping divided by how many bags I have, that's another half a cent. Like I'll get like to that point, but I never factored in like power or anything like that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Most of my parts I make, I don't think that the fraction of a cent in power that I'm using is really hurting me one way or the other. Like
I
my
think that
machines
just
are
kind of comes down to like your monthly cost of doing business.
right. Yeah, I know roughly what my electric bill is. I know what my rent is. I know what my machine payment is. All that stuff. And so like, I need to make sure that I cover those and that I make sure that my shop rate reflects those. But besides that, I'm not drilling down to that nitty gritty right now.
Yeah.
The next one we've talked about a little bit, but I'll just touch on it. JGF5 asks, I'd love to, if you guys could talk about how you learned to quote. I'm a machinist and would love to start my own company, but have never been part of the quoting process, just programming and setting up the machines. So, kind of like what we talked about in the last question, you need to know what your expenses are and you need to know what you want to get paid. Like if you're paying yourself in your own business full time, and then you just need to factor all that stuff together. And then quoting is like a lot of it's just experience based. You're like, I've had parts similar to this. It took me about this long to do it. If I'm really worried about parts or I'm trying to like really get costs down, I'll pre-program part of the job, like at least the roughing and some of the finishing, and be like, okay, that gives me this much time, and then I've got an extra minute in drilling and tapping or something like that. So um, it's quoting is both a black magic and also it's just math. It's just like this plus this plus this, and then you're like, I don't know, maybe I'll tack on this because the customer wanted to rush it 3 days or something like that. But when it comes down to it, it's really just like what your expenses are plus what you want to get paid or your over or your margin, and then cost of materials and all that stuff. So
One thing I do like, Saunders has a good video on quoting jobs. He has two. There's a newer version, but he mentioned I don't know if it was in the new or old version, but I do this too is I'll look at my spreadsheet and I'll be like, okay, here's like, I think he calls it like the contribution margin, like the total amount you'll make on this job profit. And it's like, look at that number and think, okay, like this is how I do. I'll be like, okay, this 100 parts, that's going to take me, let's say 5 days of machining and I'll make X dollars. Am I happy with making X dollars, or is that too little? Is that too much? Um, and if it's too little, then start adding in some things to bump that number up, and it'll adjust the per part price. And yeah, don't short yourself.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. And like as a small shop too, you have to very much consider the opportunity cost of every job. Like if somebody's like, "Oh, I really want to beat you up on price on this part, and I want 1,000 of them," and like you're gonna make 50 cents a part, and like you're like, "Oh yeah, I can probably do it for that thing," and it's like, okay, well that's gonna take me, the next 3 weeks. It's like how many higher paying jobs that you're going to be happier with are you going to lose in the next 3 weeks because you don't have the machine capabilities anymore?
Yeah,
So I think about that a lot. Like when people, I've had people reach out that just want a onesie twosie, and I like quote them full time, like what it is, and they're like, "Well, it's too expensive," and it's like, I'd love to work on your project, but like I gotta make sure that I, make my monthly nut. Like I can't do your $100 project for $50 because you're a good friend. Like I just need to get it. I need to get work in the shop.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
So Fort Manufacturing asked, unexpected expenses. What do you guys do to keep risk to a minimum and maintain a steady flow of jobs, income, invoice terms?
uh hmm it's hard. That's part of me looking at that contribution margin and knowing like if it's on that line of like I need work and it's not enough. I normally bump it up because like Dylan ran into, like he tried to make that job and he busted an end mill, and it's like not that however much that end mill costs like hurts you, but it's just like it's the everything that comes with it, and that's what's the expensive part about this. It's like breaking a half-inch end mill, like yeah, it sucks for a split second, but then it's like, well, crap, like I need to get this part done, and how do you account for that? And that's where it's like you just can't short yourself. I can't stress that enough. I've gotten so many messages about these jobs that, you know, onesie twosies or high volume and super low profit. And it's just like, just don't get into this for that. It's just gonna burn you out so quick.
Yeah. Well, and high volume jobs, like as a small shop, are really hard. Like, unless you're getting enough money that like they pay for your salary and your machine and your like all your stuff is covered and you got some money in the bank and you're guaranteed, I don't know, 6 months or a year of it, like it's probably not worth it. Like, if you're just struggling to make ends meet because you've got a production job stealing all your time, like that's a losing bet. Like,
Yeah.
don't do that. Um, yeah, and as far as like unexpected expenses, we definitely try to keep a cash buffer in all of our accounts. Having a line of credit or something like that that's untapped or very low tapped is also really important when you're growing a business. Just so you have like some cushion. Like, worst case, you got to replace a spindle, and you're like, oh man, like I'm weeks behind on jobs. It's like, well, worst case, you can put it on credit and then pay it back off, something like that. So it's not ideal, but it's a safety net, I guess.
Then he also mentioned like 50% down and whatnot. Depends on the customer. You kind of got to feel them out. Most of them, I would say for me, I at least get money for materials. And I normally say that I just say 50% down and then the other 50% when they get the parts. You can't be burned. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely. It's a by customer basis. Like, if most of my customers, if they're an established customer that I don't worry about, it's just due on delivery.
Yep.
I've got a few customers that are on net 30 because that's what their corporate structure is, and I want to do business with them, so I play ball.
Yep.
And then if it's a big job for a new customer, definitely get enough money down to cover my tooling and material. And like that way, worst case, I'm burned out of my time, which sucks, but does not end my business. I'm not out a few grand in tooling and material or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
And then the last one was from Jody, mayor of Little River, and he asked spindle types, dual contact, Capto, HSK, CAT, the benefits of each, and how to choose the right one for your machine. And I told him, I was like, well, I don't think that either of us has
I'm
experience with
not
Capto or
qualified for
HSK.
that at all.
And he was like, I would appreciate it if you talked out of your ass and made some wild accusations and stuck with your guns. And I said, think we can do
All right. I'm going to go first.
that.
All right, this is my little experience. I'm not a doctor. Here we go. Dual dual contact is awesome. It can be expensive. It's great for like roughing and like just hogging out material on like bigger machines. HSK, I just picked. I mean, it's HSK from the numbers. It just sounds like it's just so much more holding, what is it, clamping pressure on the tool or whatever, um, and could be great for anything, especially even the smaller HSK stuff for like high RPMs and whatnot. And then cat is just kind of like cat. Um, yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, so I would always go for a dual contact spindle if it's offered. Um, it's not that much more money. Like, I spend, I don't know, $30 or $40 more per holder for dual contact than I do for standard ones, and I'm trying to have 100% dual contact.
How
Like,
much was the spindle difference, if you don't mind sharing? Do you remember?
I don't I think the option is like 3 or 4 grand on the Speedio,
Okay.
maybe 5 grand. I don't know because mine's also the high torque, and so there's two price increases there. It's like 10 or 12 grand different, something like that.
Okay.
Because I've got almost double the peak horsepower of the standard spindle. But like, the reason it's so expensive on the Speedios, and the thing I was going to mention is like the only problem with dual contact on like robo drills or even other machines is that if you're not using 100% dual contact holders in other machines, you can get chips up on the taper when you're not using a dual contact holder, and then if you come in with a dual contact holder, you'll smush that chip and it'll cause 100 thou run out or like 40 thou run out. Like we've had it happen at work, and like parts that were supposed to be 2 thou flat, we go and check them and it's like 15 thou flat because the rougher that we were using or the finisher that we were using was dual contact, but nothing else was. And a chip got stuck up there on the face contact and threw it out. The nice thing about the Brothers, and the reason that the dual contact option is so expensive even on the standard spindle, is that it comes with a taper wash. And so there's a jet right behind the spindle that as the spindle comes up and the carousel swings below it, it sprays off all the tapers. So like unless you have some real nasty chip that somehow gets stuck to things, everything gets cleaned every time you do a tool change, and it prevents that kind of stuff. So I can mix and match on my Speedio with much less worry. Like, not that there couldn't be a chip that gets clamped up there, but like the likelihood of it is very, very low.
And it's so badass when it does it.
Yeah, and it's just super badass. But yeah, I would 100% go with dual contact over standard if you have the option, because it's like it's not that much more money if you're tooling up a machine fresh, and it's like way more rigid. Like I can take deeper cuts and stronger cuts with every single tool that I have because of it. And I've got a little BT30 spindle versus a 40 or 50 taper that's dual contact is just insane. Um, Capto is pretty badass from what I've heard. I've never used it, but like the trilobe thing seems pretty rigid and excellent. And then HSK. So I've heard that they only have their maximum clamping force at higher RPM, like as that taper expands out into the hollow taper expands into the spindle. And like I've heard that at lower RPM, there's not a giant difference between them and like a equally sized cat holder. So, but again, I'm not a doctor. Take that for what you will. The other thing I've heard too is like on the smaller HSKs, like I think even Grimsmo's HSK is like 25 or something like that. If you don't have the HSK that's keyed, you can actually spin them in the taper if you rough too hard.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And so like that's the other weird thing about HSK is that there's so many different revs of it that like that's like talking about machine tapers in general versus like like there's like a million different styles of HSK that I know nothing about really. So take that for what you will, but I've heard it's fantastic for high RPMs like roughing and finishing, and then really rigid contact, and you can stick tools out the length of your arm and crazy stuff like that. All I have to do is like watch Saunders's tour of 1186 manufacturing.
Yep.
He shows and talks about the holding power of HSK, and like when you get to the bigger HSK 100s and stuff, like it's insane how much holding power you have. So yeah, that's the little bit I know about tapers, which is not much.
Yeah.
All right, so you have had half an hour to figure out what you researched this week.
Oh shoot. You go first. No. I got a
Okay.
big list.
Okay. So I'm having car troubles. My car. Oh well. So yeah, I mentioned that I had a rough couple of weeks last Friday, 2 Fridays ago, 2 Fridays ago, I think. My car died like a mile from my house on the way to the shop, and I think it's ignition related again or ECU related again. And so what made that day so hard is my car died. It was 100 degrees. I had to sit in my hot car for 3 hours waiting for a tow truck. Then I got it home and then was maneuvering it around into my parking space and locked my keys in my car.
Oh geez.
And my only spare was at the shop, and my shop keys were in the car.
Oh
And
no.
Brad was out of town until later that night.
Oh my god. Come on. Where's the little inn?
Yeah. So anyway, that started this all. But what that started also is that Brad's also a big car nerd, and there's a aftermarket ECU based on Arduino called Speedwino, and it's all open source. You can get all the plans online. It's super cheap to build. Like I can build a Speedwino for like $150 or buy one for $150, whereas like a normal aftermarket ECU is like $800 or $900. And I know a bunch of our, well, not a bunch, but there's a few of our listeners that I've talked to about ECUs, and they're like, you go Haltech or we're not friends anymore, or like
You're like,
you
whoa,
know.
chill, dude.
So I'm sure they're not going to be happy with hearing me say this. But anyway, what this has made me learn and what I wanted to do was build a Speeduino that used the stock connector. So it was like a plug and play ECU, because I'm tired of my 80s technology in my car just destroying my productivity. And so I'm replacing the full ignition system with coil on packs instead of the igniter and ignition coil, and a new ECU, and I'm going to tune it myself. But that has made me start to learn Fusion's electronic design, because I'm building the Speeduino in Fusion. I'm piecing together the entire schematic. Then I'm going to build the board. I have another, stock board that I can base all my measurements off of. And then I'll get it printed by this company called OSH Park that prints these like purple circuit boards. And then I'll solder in all the connectors myself and program it all myself and tune it, and it'll be a big learning curve because this will be the first board I've ever sent off to get manufactured. It's gonna be a ton of fun, but I'm really really enjoying getting my hands on it. Like, it's so weird because I'm usually so competent at CAD stuff that trying out the electronics design after having never used Eagle or anything like that, I was at such a loss, and like was like texting Brad. I was like, I hate this effing program. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Blah blah blah. And he was like, whoa, dude, calm down. Like, well, we'll sort it out. And then I watched some videos on it, and like Fusion's got a ton of videos on it on their YouTube. And I was like, oh, okay. I was just clicking the entirely wrong buttons and starting in the wrong place. And okay, and like so now I'm about 3/4 of the way done. I think I've got to do a few injector connectors and stuff like that. But then I'll be ready to proof my board or arrange the board. It's got like an automatic router that'll route all the wires for you. And then I'll send it off to get printed. So I'm super excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and then the other thing I researched that just happened today, if you haven't seen it, Pearson released their Vac Watch, which is their vacuum. I want to just call it a vacuum e-stop, more or less. Like, it monitors your vacuum pressure from your vacuum pallet or whatever, and if it falls below a certain amount, it'll throw the e-stop on your machine.
Yeah, I watched that video. That was a cool little product he came up with.
Yeah, and Carlos, Factory 400, who's his head of R&D for that. I think the prototype boards in that are from OSH Park as well, the same
Oh,
place that I'm going to get mine
cool.
printed. Yeah, because they do them. They're printed in the U.S. fairly low cost. I mean, they're not as cheap as China, but for a USA made board, they're pretty low cost, 2-week turnaround or something like that. So I'm super excited.
That's cool. I remember Pearson was talking about that. Kind of, does he go to China for those or US? It's kind of cool that he went with the US.
Yeah. I mean, at least for the prototype ones, I don't know how many they got made, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's going to be. It's been a big learning curve, learning all of the electronic stuff and that whole side of Fusion, but it's a ton of fun, and like I'm really enjoying it now.
Yeah. I didn't know Fusion you could do that.
Yeah, if you go to File, New Electronics Design, it like pulls up 2 new windows, and you start with the schematic, which is just like zero arrangement is needed. Like, you can just put components wherever as long as they connect to the right places. And then you say create PCB from it, and it pulls all those over to another window. And then you can arrange them on your actual board, and then you can generate all your traces and all that stuff. And then it'll create all the files you need to send out to get made.
Yeah.
And actually, you can do the cam in there too for the board if you wanted to cut it yourself.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. My turn.
Yes.
So, couple total random things. I'm starting to understand the difference between a WAV file and an MP3. That's really basic for some people, but I started to understand that, so that was kind of cool. Because I've been doing a lot of like audio stuff recently, and then I got a new laptop, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw that on your stories.
Yeah, I haven't had too much time to use it. I don't think it's not. I didn't buy it for Fusion, but a lot of people want me to download Fusion and see how it runs. I know it's going to run great because it's a gaming laptop, and I just know it would. Um, and I've
Yeah,
had
it's a Razer, right?
yeah, and I've
Yeah, that'd be
had,
fine.
you know, really cheap laptops run Fusion fine. So this would just destroy Fusion. Um, so I got that. That was like a little side project thing. And then one thing I was talking to you about is this damn 3D printer. I'm trying to get this thing to work. It is so close, but like I just I don't know what to do. The glass bed I think works. I think I'm gonna keep it on there. Um,
Okay.
but the center is a total high spot. So I've diagnosed the problem. At first, I didn't know what was happening, but that's what's happening. Is it is totally bulged in the center because the nozzle almost just rubs like on the glass, like it's that close. Um,
I'm surprised it warped that much for
yeah,
glass.
so
Like I figured that would solve your problem.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to take like maybe some sticky notes and fold them in half and put them in the four corners and try to just like slowly, bring those ends up, um, and just keep leveling it. That's like all I can think of really.
Yeah, because you don't really want to try to flex your heated bed. The only
No,
thing I can think is that you need to replace it or like contact Crayola. Who'd you buy it from? Amazon?
no, what were you about to say? Creality?
Yeah, Crayolyty or whatever.
Yeah,
I would just contact them, see if they'll send you a new
yeah.
one.
Just see
Be
what
like,
they
hey, this
say.
is warped. Yeah, because I know it's been a pretty common problem with Ender 3s.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, a bunch of people have talked about it. I think Ben's was pretty warped. Mine thankfully wasn't, or at least it doesn't seem like it's that badly warped. Um, I'm kind of wishing I had waited. Well, I didn't know it was coming out at the time, but they have that new CR6 SE
Okay.
that just came out, and that thing is from what it looks like, is a beast. Like it doesn't require any leveling. It has a touch sensor built in. It has like upgraded fans, touchscreen, all kinds of stuff. It's completely sold out everywhere, but it looks badass, and it's like 399,
I
something
just
like
looked
that.
at their website. I mean, an Ender 3 is now only $209, free shipping.
Yeah,
So they dropped
yeah, it's
that by
crazy.
like $30.
Yeah, but I would definitely just I would totally comment on that or like email them
Yeah, I just pulled
and
up their
just see what
website.
happens.
Yeah, but other than that, um, yeah, that's really about it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're getting going on that Ender. I didn't realize like until we had talked, I think last time or the time before, how much you use your 3D printer.
Yeah, I don't know. I got some products that I really want to prototype and like machined products that I really want to play with. And it'd just be nice to have something to, constantly innovate, try new shapes and stuff like that. Just the ideal stuff for a 3D printer.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that about wraps up this week. And oh, you want to announce next week's guest?
Yeah, so next week, let me pull it up just so I don't misspeak. We have NCC Knives or Nick coming on, and he reached out to me, and I didn't realize. I think I was following him. He's been following me for a while because I recognize his name, but he makes some really sweet looking knives. Um,
Yeah, I'm pumped to get to talk to him, pick his brain on it.
yeah, and I'm just looking through his Instagram now. I don't know what kind of machine he has, but yeah, he has some cool looking stuff. So he'll be interesting to talk to. We can talk more knife making and just, I'm sure, small business owners. It looks like he has a Haas machine of some kind. But yeah, he'll be a cool guest to have on. So that'll be next Tuesday. We'll film or record, and that'll come out probably Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, and then you'll be here.
Yeah. And so, once again, quick recap. The goal is going to be our book. So, everyone order that now so you have it ready. And then, like I said, I got 2 t shirts on my website. So, if you guys are a double XL and you want a within tolerance t shirt, go ahead and buy those. And then we can wrap that end up. And in the next probably couple weeks, we'll have more info on new t shirts.
Yep. Awesome. Well, have a great night.
Yep. See you guys.